Hi, welcome to the Lifestyle Herbalist, the podcast where holistic wellness meets everyday living. I'm your host, Dami Vaccaro. I'm a registered dental hygienist, a clinical herbalist, and a certified health coach.
And I'm your co-host, Sabrina Cooper, a registered dental hygienist with a bachelor's in oral health promotion, a certified culinary nutritionist and herbalist, and a mindfulness and mindful eating coach. Together, we explore the intersection of holistic health, herbal wisdom, and joyful living. From plant-powered remedies to kitchen medicine, mindful moments, and conversations that feed the soul, we're here to help you feel vibrant, grounded, and inspired in your daily life. So steep a cup of something soothing, settle in, and let's grow well together one episode at a time, bringing you a healthy dose of happiness.
Welcome back to the podcast. If you're new here, I'm so glad you're listening. This is a space where we talk about the deeper connections between oral health and overall well-being, what we see chairside as dental hygienists, and why the mouth often tells a story long before a diagnosis is ever made. Whether you're a clinician, a patient, or someone simply curious about preventative health, my goal is to help you listen to those early signals with more clarity and less fear. Today's episode is a perfect example of why I believe dental hygienists are often on the front lines of healthcare in ways we don't really talk about, not nearly enough anyway. I want to share a patient experience this week, one that sparked a really meaningful conversation about systemic health, prevention, and why routine dental visits can reveal far more than cavities and calculus. This was a patient I've seen consistently. His oral health, his health history, had been really fairly unremarkable. No chronic problems, decent home care, nothing ever really reported major concerns. So when I began my assessment this week, the first thing that stood out to me was that his gums were more inflamed. He really had some generalized moderate gingivitis, and this was new. It wasn't that his home care was not up to par. He had a little bit of buildup on his teeth, but very little. And so it didn't really match what I was seeing in his mouth. And that's often how things show up. It's not dramatic. It's just more subtle, and it's different. As hygienists, we're trained not to look at the mouth in isolation, but to notice patterns over time. When something doesn't fit the usual picture, that's when I start to slow down and begin asking more questions. So before going straight into asking him about what he's been doing at home or his diet, I just paused and asked him, "When was your last yearly medical checkup?" And without hesitation, he reported, "Honestly, probably over 5 years ago." That answer alone gave me important information. Because when we see generalized inflammation without a clear local cause, it's time to stop and zoom out. That question opened the door to a very different kind of an appointment, not one focused on plaque alone, but we had to get to the root of something systemic. There was something significant that we needed to uncover. That question opened the door to a very different kind of appointment, not one focused on plaque control alone, but one rooted in more systemic significance. I explained to him that gums are incredibly responsive tissues. They reflect what's happening in the body with inflammation, blood sugar regulation, stress levels, immune function, and even nutrient statuses. The mouth is highly vascular, consistently renewing, which makes it one of the first places imbalances can show up. It was very clear we were not going to diagnose anything in the dental chair today, but we are observing early signals. And generalized gingivitis that appears suddenly can sometimes be the body's way of asking for attention before symptoms become loud enough to send someone to the doctor. What struck me was how receptive he was. We started talking, and he shared to me that, he had been feeling a bit tired lately. Sleeping had been so great. He was under a bit of work stress because of the holidays, and he just wasn't feeling quite himself. But nothing that left him serious enough to think about scheduling a physical. And that's such a common story. Most people aren't ignoring their health, they're just waiting for something definitive. The body, meanwhile, is whispering. This is where the role of the dental hygienist becomes so important. We see patients on a regular basis. We spend between 45 minutes and an hour with them, and we're looking at the tissues that respond quickly to systemic changes, and we're tracking those changes over time. And physicians, they're incredibly important, but patients usually only see them reactively, while hygienists see people more preventatively. That's why I often say we don't diagnose, we contextualize. We notice when tissue behavior changes, when inflammation doesn't resolve as expected, when healing seems delayed, when mouth no longer matches the story, there's something to tell. In cases like this, where inflammation is present but the cause isn't obvious, this is where I find functional testing incredibly valuable, especially HTMA and salivary testing, not as diagnostic tools but as pattern recognition tools. Hair tissue mineral analysis, or HTMA, gives us insight into mineral relationships, stress patterns, and how the body has been adapting over time. Minerals like calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium play a huge role in inflammation, nervous system regulation, and tissue response. When these relationships are off, we often see it reflected in the oral tissues, especially how gums respond to plaque and heal after irritation. Salivary testing, on the other hand, offers a more real-time snapshot. It can give insight into the oral microbial balance, inflammatory markers, immune activity, and stress-related patterns in the mouth. Saliva is more than just spit. It's a diagnostic fluid that reflects what's happening locally and systemically. When someone presents with a new gingival inflammation, salivary patterns can help us understand why the tissues are reacting the way they are. But for this patient, the conversation really wasn't about running tests immediately. It was about the awareness, about reconnecting with his body and reestablishing routine medical care. We talked about scheduling a physical, getting baseline labs, and using this moment as an opportunity, not as a scare tactic, but to be proactive. From the dental side, we adjusted his home care to support the inflammation we were seeing, but more importantly, we acknowledged that his mouth was likely reflecting something deeper. The goal wasn't to fix everything in one visit, it was really about listening. This is why I believe dental hygienists often know when something is changing before diagnoses are ever made. Not because we have all the answers, but because we're paying attention. Because the mouth doesn't operate separately from the rest of the body, and because prevention isn't about waiting for disease. It's about responding to early signals with curiosity and care. This podcast exists to explore these moments, when quiet ones that happen in the dental chair long before the lab values are ever flagged or diagnoses are made. If you're a hygienist listening, I hope this empowers you to trust your observations and your voice. And if you're a patient, I hope it encourages you to see your dental visits as a part of your overall health care, not a separate entity. Sometimes the first clue isn't found in the medical chart. It's actually found in the gums. Hey, thanks for spending time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it, leave a review, or pass it along to someone who might benefit from hearing it. And if you're interested in learning more about the oral systemic health, or HTMA or salivary testing, you can find more information on my website, which will be in the show notes. Until next time, keep listening to your body. It might be trying to tell you something.